will it make any profit? It will not, because it is incurring huge cost on R&D and this and that. Therefore, it calculates if we are coming up with a new model or anything of that sort, that how many at least we should sell so that we cover our total cost, and then we start making profit. Think of any product, any service, anything, any business. So naturally, it needs to reach a bare minimum level. Thereafter only it starts making profit. So this is just a concept. There are several dozen uses that we shall see later on. Right now, the meaning. So cost, volume, and profit analysis. It is also known as break-even analysis because you all know the meaning of what break-even, a point wherein the firm neither suffers any loss nor it generates any profit. That is known as break-even point. The concept is known to you, I mean, to everybody even before also. I don't be say that this is the break-even level or this is the break-even point. You neither make a profit nor you suffer any loss. You call that point as your break-even point, a point wherein you have covered your total costs. So this is the meaning. Is this fine? Shall I move, or you need any clarification up to this stage? Okay, good. Then meaning I have explained. Second, that is to be explained in this one is about the assumption. So the assumptions of break-even analysis, by assumption I mean that unless in all the social sciences, the theories, the rules, principles, and postulates, hypotheses, etc., are always subject to certain assumptions. If those assumptions are not met, the recommendations that are there, or the suggestions, or the to be true. Under those assumptions only are statements true. So those assumptions, I think I have not written. Okay. Take note of those assumptions. Number one, cost can be divided strictly into two categories. I'll repeat, cost can be divided strictly into two categories. Number one, fixed cost, and number two, variable cost. Have you noted? Okay, so there will be no other category of cost except fixed cost and variable cost. Now, write assumption number two. Fixed cost remains unchanged up to designated change per variable cost per unit, variable cost all stock operations per unit, variable cost does not change. For example, if you produce 1 unit, in terms of variable cost is rupees 10. If you make 1 unit, variable cost is rupees 10. If you make 100 units, what will be variable cost?
1,000.
1,000. And if you make 10,000 units?
1 lakh.
1 lakh. And if you make 1 crore unit?
1 lakh.
10 crore.
10 crore.
10 crore.
10 crores, correct. So this is what
10
our assumption is, that per unit variable cost does not change up to any level of operations. 1 unit, let us say 1 rupee, 10 crore units, 10 crore rupees, 100 crore units, 100 crore rupees. Per unit variable cost does not change. I hope you are clear about the concept of fixed cost and variable cost. The meaning of variable cost should be known to you, because you must have definitely read it in managerial economics, isn't it? Have you reached this stage in the managerial economics course?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We read.
So then I'll not be okay. Fine, then good enough. Then I'll not be spending much of the time. Whatever has been discussed there, I'll concentrate on its accounting part only and the managerial uses. So then fine. What is the third assumption? If you have already studied, can somebody share? Or you cannot recall? You can't recall. When was it discussed? Long ago or recently?
Long ago.
In the starting of the classes.
At the starting of the class. चले कोई बात नहीं. So two assumptions we have noted. Now third assumption. Per unit sales price also remains constant. Per unit sales price also remains a constant. You are selling something at the rate of rupees 10 per unit. So if you sell 100 units, you get 1000 revenue. If you sell 1000 units, you get a 10,000 worth revenue. So it is 100% proportional to the volume of sales. So sales price does not change. So this is the third assumption. Now fourth assumption, that sales and production both have been assumed as synchronized. So this means there will be no closing stock. Your decision or your recommendations or your conclusion will be true only if you assume that the firm does not have a closing stock. Is it clear?
Can you please repeat?
Okay. The assumption is fourth one, that the sales and production are synchronized. Whatever is produced is sold. The decision that we will be arriving at, the conclusions we will be arriving at, will have an assumption like there is no closing stock. When we say sales and productions are synchronized, what does it mean? That there is no closing stock. Whatever is produced is sold. All right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Any question? Okay. Next and final assumption of this analysis is that in case of a firm which is producing multiple products, usually it happens. Usually, hardly there are firms which produce only a single product. There are firms which produce several products. You have cell phone company which makes several categories of phone. You have automobile company which produces several types of cars. You have two-wheelers industry, two-wheeler firm which produces several models, several variants of a car, etc., etc. Therefore, what we assume is that in case of a multiple product firm, a firm which is producing multiple products, its sales mix remains constant. You just make a note, I'll explain. Its sales mix remains constant. By sales mix, I mean if a firm is selling three products, A, B, and C. So naturally, it must be selling them in some proportion. One of the proportions could be that all are being sold in equal quantity, 33, 33, and 34, or 33.3, 33.3, 33.3, or maybe in a ratio of 50 is to 30 is to 25 is to 2 is to 3, or 1 is to 1 is to 3. There can be any permutation, any combination, any ratio, but the assumption is that this ratio remains constant over the time period for which we are making these calculations. It could be a year, it could be 10 years, it could be 2 decades, whatever time frame is there in your mind. Sales mix of all these products is to be assumed as constant. It should not so happen, or it should not be so thought that today you sold 20 units of A, 30 units of B, and 50 units of C, and tomorrow it was different, next day it was different. So day's event does not matter. What we assume that our revenue that we draw from the sales of various products comes in the same proportion. So these are 5 broad assumptions of this analysis. We will see what is this analysis, we will see how to calculate, but why I have discussed the assumptions before, that as and when we reach a conclusion, as and when we reach a decision, so those decisions will be true only, or those recommendations will be true only under these 5 assumptions. So now we proceed how to calculate this and how to take decisions
Yes, sir.
based on this?
Sure, sir.
Okay, okay. Now how to calculate? Okay, calculations again may take in 3 different forms. We can calculate the break-even level or break-even point in units to be sold in order to break even, or we can calculate a break-even point in terms of rupees, that is for how many rupees should we sell in order to break even, or the same can be calculated and displayed or depicted using a graph. So 3 ways in which it can be calculated, and naturally after calculation there will be a recommendation or there will be a conclusion. So naturally first we have to calculate, only then the interpretation would be possible. So first let us start with how can this be calculated using or in terms of units. When I say in terms of unit, so we need to calculate using a very simple formula, number of units in order to break even, number of units in order to recover our total cost, or number of units at which our total cost or a profit will be equal, or can we say in any other words also?
Sir, where profit and loss is 0.
Okay, good. A situation where a profit or loss figure is 0. Now, suppose we want to make a multiple choice question of this. So we can make break-even point refers to A, B, C, D. A, where total cost is equal to total revenue, where profit or loss, difference between sales revenue and total cost is 0. The third, where firm has recovered its total cost. Fourth, where profit is at least 10% of cost. So which one will be incorrect?
Sir, D will be incorrect. Profit is 10%.
Okay.
Or
Now it reminds me of a small assignment to be given to you. Once the class is over, whatever we have discussed in this class in 40 minutes, each one of you will be required to draft 2 MCQs, only 2, draft 2 MCQs and post it in the chat box, any 2, but you will start writing it only at 8:35. आप रिमाइंड कर दीजिए मुझे, इससे पहले होता था ये, लेकिन इस बार पता नहीं क्यों मेरे ध्यान से निकल गया. आई यूज्ड टू आस्क MCQs फ्रॉम द स्टूडेंट्स ओनली, और उन्हीं में से लोगों को दे दिए जाते थे. डू यू ऑल्सो वांट द सेम थिंग?
Yes, sir.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल बिल्कुल, बहुत अच्छा है. बट लेट मी टेल यू दैट इट वुड नॉट मेक रियली अ डिफरेंस, क्योंकि आपने एक सवाल बनाया, out of let us say 80 of you are present and I get 160 questions, the chances are that there will be varying types of questions. So the one that you make, the chances of it appearing in the test or wherever, what will be the probability of your question appearing in the test? 1/120, और ओके, और अगर आपने 2 सवाल बना दिए तो 2/1/60, और सवाल कितने होंगे? लेट अस से 15. So probability of your this one appearing will be 1 by perhaps somewhere around
1/900.
1/900.
Also, many questions will be same.
चलिए, कोई हर्ज नहीं. चलिए, the idea is at least you should know how to do that. Correct. Where were we? Calculations. Now let me explain to you the calculations. Calculation, we start with units. How to calculate it in terms of unit. I have written here meaning assumption. Where are we now? We are at 4.1. Break-even in units. How to calculate it? Formula I have given here. Fixed cost divided by contribution margin. What is contribution margin? Contribution margin is equal to, you can make a note in your answer book, per unit sales price minus per unit variable cost. Per unit sales price minus per unit variable cost gives you a contribution margin. So when fixed cost is divided by contribution margin, the answer you get will be your break-even point. You got it? Okay, now in the slide itself, calculations have been given with assumed data. Let us assume that your per unit sales price is rupees 10 and your variable cost is rupees 6 and fixed cost is rupees 10,000. So what will be your break-even point? 10,000 divided by 4. 4 is 10 minus 6. So 2,500 units. So in 2,500 units, what will be the interpretation? Okay. Anything else? Any a bit, one or two more sentences by someone else?
सर जो हम नेक्स्ट यूनिट बनाएंगे उसके बाद हमारा प्रॉफिट आना शुरू हो जाएगा.
गुड. और कोई बताइए.
Sir, when we reach
हमको
25 units, then we would have recovered our total cost, and we would be at a stage where the firm is earning no profit and incurring no losses.
Anyone else? Okay. Fine, Arma. Okay. Anyone else?
सर फर्म को बेसिकली कितना मिनिमम आउटपुट जो है प्रोड्यूस करना चाहिए, उसके बाद अगर एक्सेस प्रोड्यूस करेगी तो उसका प्रॉफिट जनरेट होगा.
ठीक है. और कोई बताए? Anyone else? कोई और बताए? आप सबके आंसर्स ठीक हैं except that they are incomplete in certain respect. What is that respect? That none of you have just made a statement that this will happen, but this statement will be true only if in between.
Sir, this is
How
the
many
minimum
units are you
level of
selling?
output which a firm is required to produce in order to survive in the market.
Still, Reza, a bit is missing. See, you all have made a statement, a general statement. If firm is able to sell 2,500 units, it will recover its total cost. Some of you have said, and rightly so, no doubt about that. If you sell 2,500 and first unit, and one more unit, you will make some profit. Prior to that, you will suffer losses. So your all answers are correct, except that you should have also added that if the firm is able to produce and sell 2,500 units, it will recover total cost provided its per unit sales price over this time period does not change. Provided its variable cost over a time period does not change. Isn't it? Provided it is able to sell the entire units it has produced, only then your answer will be correct. It's okay. Good. Fine. Fair enough. That means what? That it should have been said along with the assumptions. Is that okay? Okay. Now, by discussing this formula, a particular assumption, one more assumption strikes my mind, which I also have not read in any book. At least I have not read. Maybe it is given, but I have not read. One more assumption that came to my mind. Now think of that assumption. Just concentrate on the slide on the point number 4.1. Concentrate just for 1 minute or less. And whatever assumption comes to your mind, you post me privately. Don't post it in the group, so that each one of you can apply your mind. Don't post in the group. Just, post it in the, if you are able to. If not, at least write you have not been able to think. Is my question clear?
Yes, sir.
The 4.1.
Can you repeat, please?
The question that I wanted you to answer is that you concentrate on 4.1. Look at 4.1, what is mentioned from 4.1 until 4.2. Just stop. It means looking at this, can you think of one more assumptions over and above the 5 that we have discussed? ये अशब, तुम क्या इतनी देर से क्यों ज्वाइन कर रहे हो? या ज्वाइन कर लिया था, नाम नहीं लिखा था?
सर ज्वाइन कर लिया था, मैं भूल गया था अटेंडेंस
कोई
मार्क
बात नहीं.
करना.
ओएस तुम्हारा क्या मामला है भाई? ओएस
जी सर, हेलो सर।
हाँ, क्यों
कनेक्शन
क्यों
इशू,
देर से ज्वाइन कर रहे हो?
5 मिनट लेट हो
5
सर,
मिनट
थोड़ा
नहीं,
लेट
तुम
हो गया
11
था
मिनट लेट हो
कनेक्शन।
भाई। ये एक फार्मूला निकालना चाहिए कि तुम्हारे 5 मिनट और मेरे 11 मिनट में कितना फर्क होता है, फिर मैं उसी हिसाब से एडजस्ट करूँ अपने आप को। So you try to think what should be one more assumption. And now I got the correct answer from one of you. But continue writing. Continue sending me the answers if you can. This I have discussed, Zishan. The sales and production have been synchronized. It has to be. Okay, no issues. It is also good enough if you say that you can't think it right now, or doing it for the short run now. All right, but if the question is clear, out of how many I have received so far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out of 7, only one is correct. But anyway, you think over it, and if you are not able to, recall, then you can share with me later also. Not able to, sales price also remains constant. That we have discussed, Aksa. The sales price remains constant. Number of units will remain constant. Perfect competition. No, perfect competition is not there. But anyhow, you just write. Just post it here. All right. Uh, all right. We move on. So this is what you have, and this is how you have calculated. This is simple, very simple. Divided by this one, you can calculate it. Now you can assume any other data and calculate it. There is nothing. I mean, just such a simple thing you can do that. Now, can we move on? Okay. Now we move on now. How to calculate break-even point in rupees? Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Shall I explain to you 4.2?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Now, in order to find out, uh, even suppose we don't discuss 4.2, and if I ask you how to calculate break-even point in rupees, what would you do? Suppose
So
this
we
is,
can change unit into
sorry,
rupees.
hmm?
यूनिट्स को रुपीज में कन्वर्ट कर लेंगे सर, पर यूनिट का क्या प्राइस है उस हिसाब
यूनिट को रुपीज में कन्वर्ट कर देंगे. सपोज इट डज नॉट एग्जिस्ट, इजंट इट? ये एग्जिस्ट नहीं करता है, ठीक है ना? तो आप क्या करेंगे? 2500 will multiplied by rupees 10. In order to find it out, it can simply be units multiplied by per unit sales price. So what will be your answer?
25,000. 25,000.
25,000 rupees. Correct?
1,000.
It will simply be 25,000 rupees. But there is a necessity, just one second. There is a necessity to find out the break even in rupees, because subsequently we will be required to use in rupees. Without rupees, further calculation will not be possible. When we reach towards maybe next class after some time, therefore better we learn how to calculate it in rupees straight away. So how to find out in rupees? The formula I have given you: fixed cost divided by contribution ratio. You mind the difference between the two? What was the formula first? Fixed cost divided by
Contribution margin.
margin.
Contribution margin.
And what are we writing here?
Ratio.
Ratio. So difference between the two must be noted. So if fixed cost is divided by
Contribution ratio.
I'll explain. If it is divided by contribution ratio, we get the break-even points in rupees or in any currency. And what is contribution ratio? 1 minus variable cost upon sales. 1 minus selling price, correct? You're right. 1 minus. Okay. 1 minus. Okay. Okay. Now, you know what is the variable cost here? 6. And what is
Yes, sir.
sales price?
So 10.
10. So 6 divided
10,
by
sir.
10 gives you 0.6.
Uh,
And when 0.6 is subtracted from 1,
sir.
you get 0.4.
0.4.
0.4. Or to put it simply in terms of percentage, your variable cost is 60% of your sales price. So what are you getting? 40%. That 40% is your contribution ratio. Correct. Understanding of contribution ratio is necessary. You may be required to solve certain problems wherein this concept will be needed. So now divide 10,000 by 0.4, you get 2,500, isn't it? Sorry, 25,000. I'm sorry, 25,000. So now this 25,000 rupees can be interpreted. That is, if the firm is able to sell its product for rupees 25,000, given this data, that its sales price is 10, variable cost is 10, fixed cost is 10,000, something like that, it will break even, provided there is no closing stock, provided in between sales price has not changed, variable cost has not changed, etc., etc. So firm will break even. So you have verified your answer here itself. It was 2,500 and it was 25,000. So verification, if I further explain, 25,000 divided by 2,500 10 gives you 2,500 units, which you already calculated. Then how much you will produce 2,500 rupees for? What will be the cost of producing 2,500? Variable cost plus fixed cost. What will be the variable cost? 2,500 into 6, 15,000. What is the fixed cost? 10,000. So 15 plus 10 gives you 25,000. So your total cost of producing 2,500 units, 25,000. Your total revenue of,
So 10.
isn't it 25,000? And your answer is 0. Neither profit nor loss. So we can calculate break-even point in terms of volume. That is how many rupees do we have to sell for, so that we recover our total expenses. Is that fine?
Yes, sir.
Sir, can you please repeat
See,
that?
what I was trying to explain to you, verification. Verification means, is our answer correct or not? Under what conditions your answer will be correct? When sales revenue is equal to total cost. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
If total cost is equal to total revenue, your answer is verified. If TC is equal to PR, answer is correct. Okay. Now, what is TC? What is total cost?
So BC plus FC. Variable
BC.
cost plus
Okay, total cost is equal to FC plus
BC.
BC.
Yes, sir.
How much is it?
Okay.
What is fixed cost?
VC.
Fixed cost is 10,000. And what is variable cost?
So 2,500 into 6.
10,000.
2,500
Into
into
6.
500. 15,000. Sir, आपने वो 15,500
15,000. So 15,000 plus 10,000 gives you 25,000. So 25,000 is your total
25,000.
cost, and 25,000 is your revenue. Your answer is correct. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Right. So no, you for example, you just hold on for the MCQs. We will take up this MCQs in the next class, because very little we have discussed. We will take up them in the next class. So up to this point, is it clear? Shall I proceed?
Yes, sir, sure. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Good,
Yes.
good. Okay, good. Now, calculation of break-even point graphically. So you all know that in order to plot a graph, you have two axes, X and Y. So you plot units on X-axis and you plot cost. I should have written costs. Costs on cost as well as revenue on Y-axis. When you do so, a point where two curves will intersect each other will be your break-even point. So steps are written. You take out a graph paper or simple paper, put it X unit. I'm sure you know why do we plot number of units, or why should we plot a number of units on X-axis? Why do we do so? Why cannot we plot them on Y? एक्स पर ही क्यों प्लॉट करेंगे यूनिट? ये उल्टा नहीं हो सकता या हो सकता है?
सर हो सकता है।
ठीक ठीक हो सकता है, तो फिर उसका क्या होगा असर? लोकेश
सर
आस्क,
कर्व लंबा हो जाएगा,
लंबा
मतलब
हो जाएगा।
लेंथ में। Yes.
अच्छा, अभी ये तुषार जो तुमने सवाल लिखे हैं ना, तो अभी कोई हर्ज नहीं, लिख दिया तो कोई ऐसी बात नहीं है, लेकिन आप उसको होल्ड कीजिए भी, जब आप पूरे यूनिट कंप्लीट कर लेंगे जब लिखिएगा। अच्छा,
जी सर, वो गलती से एंटर हो गया था
कोई
थोड़ा
बात नहीं, कोई बात नहीं, इसमें क्या क्या परेशानी, कोई ऐसा जुर्म थोड़ी है भाई। हाँ, क्या कह रहा था मैं आपसे कि आप जो है वाई पर क्यों नहीं प्लॉट, उल्टा हो जाएगा। आप एक काम कीजिए, आप कलम कागज निकालिए और आप दोनों तरफ से ग्राफ बनाइए, बनाइए जल्दी से ग्राफ बनाइए। शुरू कर दिया बनाना? ये कागज कलम लेके नहीं बैठते।
से शुरू कर दिया, शुरू कर दिया।
हाँ हाँ, शुरू करिए, बनाइए ग्राफ। क्या डेटा यूज करेंगे? यूज द सेम डेटा which you have been using, which you have used under 4.1 and 4.2. This is 4.3 that we are discussing, calculation of BEP graphically. जब ये बना चुके हैं तो अच्छा, तुषार के सवाल पर भी थोड़ा सा ऑब्जर्वेशन होना चाहिए आप लोगों का।
Sir, please show the previous slide.
ओके ओके, ठीक है। You all can see the question framed by Tushar.
Yes, sir, we can.
Yes, sir.
तुषार के सवाल, पहले आप ग्राफ बना लीजिए। कितना जवाब, कितना कितना वो आया आपका ग्राफ में, कहाँ कर्व को आप, कर्व दोनों आपके कहाँ इंटरसेक्ट कर रहे हैं? अमान, तुम अब ज्वाइन कर रहे हो या क्या हुआ? हाँ, कितने पर आंसर आ रहा है?
सर पहले से ज्वाइन था, सर पहले से ज्वाइन था, ये चैट बॉक्स में पड़ा हुआ था तो क्लिक हो गया, वो चला गया।
कोई हर्ज नहीं, कोई हर्ज नहीं, कोई परेशानी नहीं। Have you prepared the graph? Or still not?
Yes, sir.
So where two curves are intersecting?
Sir, TR and TC, total revenue and total cost.
आपने यूनिट तो नीचे लिखे होंगे ना एक्स एक्सिस पर, तो कितने यूनिट पर इंटरसेक्ट किया उन्होंने?
Yes,
दोनों
sir,
कर्व में
2500. 2500.
अगर उस जहां इंटरसेक्शन है उससे आप लेफ्ट में एक लाइन ड्रॉ कर दें, 90 डिग्री एंगल पर लेफ्ट में लाइन ड्रॉ करें, जहां भी इंटरसेक्शन पॉइंट है,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
उस इंटरसेक्शन पॉइंट से ड्रॉ अ लाइन टुवर्ड्स योर लेफ्ट टचिंग वाई एक्सिस। कर दिया?
Yes, sir. Sir, touching X की Y.
वाई वाई वाई
Y. Okay, sir.
कहाँ टच किया इस लाइन ने? विच
तो
फिगर्स?
से टच करना है, तो ओरिजिन से टच करना है।
ओरिजिन नहीं, ऑन वाई एक्सिस। Two curves must have intersected each other on a particular point. Keep your pen on that point and towards left, draw a line, a straight line towards left.
पैरेलल टू एक्स एक्सिस।
Parallel to x axis, correct. So it will touch y axis also, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Y axis को इसने कहाँ टच किया ये बता दीजिए। कितनी फिगर पर टच किया y axis को?
सर पॉइंट ब्रेक इवन पॉइंट पे तो 25,000 पे टच किया, और उससे लेफ्ट में अगर हम लोग नीचे जाते हैं तो फिर लेस में।
नहीं, exactly it will touch at 25,000.
Yes, sir.
And what is that y axis? It shows your total cost and total revenue both.
Yes, sir.
So it is touching at a point where total cost as well as total revenue is equal. I asked all of you to remind me when we reach towards 8:40, and none of you. So anyway, I am closing the class now. We are meeting tomorrow. Okay.
ओके सर।
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
थैंक यू सर।
Thank you, sir.
थैंक यू सर।
हाँ, good morning.